So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mastering Debt Consolidation. I'm Ninfa, the SVP at Madrivo, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We have an exciting and very informative agenda ahead of us, so let's get started. I'm sure you've seen that poll that's up there right now, so please engage with it. After this one, we'll also have an additional poll for you to answer. I'd like to start by saying thank you to our partner, National Debt Relief and Madrivo, for making this webinar possible. I also like to say thank you to all of you for taking your time to join us today. Without your participation in this, it wouldn't be the same. So your participation is what's going to make this event even more valuable. So before we dive into the presentation, I do want to go over some housekeeping items to ensure a smooth experience for everybody. So to start, if you encounter any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to let us know, and somebody from our support team will assist you very, very quickly. So make sure that you post it in there. The entire webinar is going to last around 50 to 60 minutes, and that does include the Q&A at the very end. We do value your questions and engagement, so feel free to submit your questions using the chat feature, and we'll address as many as we can during the Q&A session. Asia will be hosting that at the very end, so don't worry if we can't get to them all. We'll strive to address the most relevant ones first. We've muted everybody already, so nobody's able to talk, and everybody's going to stay muted throughout the webinar. Feel free to ask the questions in the chat, as I previously said, and we are recording the webinar. This will be sent to everyone afterwards, and we will have it posted on our website for future reference, and you'll get any additional guides that we think are going to resonate with this as well when we send this out to everybody. Right, so our second poll has started. It's debt consolidation channels. What channels do you run debt consolidation offers on? And it's multiple choice, so feel free to pick the one that you use the most or multiple ones on there. So now to start with the introductions, you see a lot of us on camera here. So to start, we have Asia. She's going to be doing the Q&A at the end. She's our Senior Advertiser Partnerships Manager at Madrivo. We have two Jeffs. We have the first Jeff is Jeff Weisman. He's the CMO at National Debt Relief and Reach Financial. Jeff Valentino is the VP of Business and Corporate Development at National Debt Relief. And last but not least, we have Driss. He is the Partner Marketing Senior Manager at National Debt Relief. So let's see, we have a couple. It looks like most people have already answered the debt consolidation channels question. Let's end it, and then we can see where everybody's at with the results. I don't see the results on my side just yet. Nope, maybe later they'll come through. We'll pull them up as soon as we get to, I don't see them on my side. Somebody's telling me that they can see it on their end. Does anybody else see them? Asia, do you see it on your end?
I see them, Ninfa.
Okay, do you want to go over that?
It popped up in real time as well, so I saw some of the results.
Okay. Asia, do you want to go over the results real quick of where everybody stands?
Yeah, it popped up, it went away, but what I could see was that most of our audience is actively running debt ads. And then I also saw a higher propensity for those ads being run on the social channel. So like I said, I don't see the number anymore. It disappeared from my screen, but that was the overwhelming majority. Perfect.
Yeah, I only see the one that says socials 82%, which includes TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, or anything other than that. Perfect. So we'll get started. So everybody can see the stats. It looks like I had some other pings that said that they're able to see them in the chat box as well. So there you go. The webinar is to gain insights into compliance requirements and to boost your knowledge in debt consolidation offers on social media platforms. So it's great that most of our participants are in social. As I mentioned in some of my LinkedIn posts, we at Madrivo believe in the long-term success and growth for our partners. So we're here to help you navigate these crazy times and figure out how to maximize revenue for sustainable long-term growth. Our webinar is specifically designed to equip you with the tools and knowledge that you're going to need to achieve that. So let's dive into it. All the questions I will be asking are up for any of the panel to answer. So jump right in after I start asking the questions. So first up is the importance of debt settlement. I think in order to have a successful campaign, you need to really understand the campaign and know about it. The more you know about it, I think the better it will do as an affiliate. So let's start there. We all know that managing financial burdens can be tough. So how does the debt settlement come to the rescue? Can you tell us why it's such an important solution for individuals struggling with debt?
Yeah, Nifa, I'm happy to handle that. So hi, everybody. I'm Jeff. I'm the CMO at NDR. And like Nifa said, flanked by Jeff Valentino, the other Jeff, and Driss. And so they'll definitely chime in. And so I'll answer the question in a second, but again, I just wanted to give a shout out to Ninfa and Asia and the whole Madrivo network for having us here. We're honored to be here. This is really important. The space is white hot right now, and it's not going to go away for the foreseeable future for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk about that momentarily. But clearly, doing well by doing well is really, really important here and playing the long game. So we're going to talk a lot about that. Debt settlement is uniquely different from debt consolidation. And one of the interesting things is it's still pretty much a novel solution. So if you kind of step back and you look at the macro world that we live in, there's ways that you can resolve debt. But because debt relief or debt settlement or debt resolution, the names are pretty much interchangeable, has low levels of awareness, tragically, people that are excellent candidates for it will skip right over to things that may not be necessary, like a bankruptcy. And what's happening now in the world that we live in is credit has tightened dramatically. So being a candidate, if you're heavily debted for a loan, has gone down dramatically. Drawing from your home equity or some other source may not be a good solution. And so the more that we're able to get the word out there about something that can be an elegant solution for the consumer is very, very important. The beauty, again, is that debt settlement or debt relief does not involve a loan. There's no credit qualifying. It's actually simpler in some ways than applying for and getting a loan. And like I said, there are really strong reasons why it makes sense for the consumer. First of all, it can accelerate getting somebody out of debt more dramatically than, let's say, that personal loan. Sometimes, and especially now, given the rate environment that we live in, lending may not be a significant like cash flow impact or cost savings to the consumer, and it really doesn't get them ahead. The way debt settlement works is without a loan or without a bankruptcy, a company like NDR will take over and become an agent for that consumer, negotiate directly with their creditors, and oftentimes not only get them out of debt faster, but with dramatic results in terms of the amount of money that we're able to knock off of their principal balances that they enroll in the program. So it's a beautiful solution in many ways, but like everything else, nothing's perfect. There's no silver bullet, and we're going to talk a little bit around how you navigate that and how you transparently articulate the real value of debt settlement without obfuscating the truth or trying to sell something to somebody that's actually not possible. So Nifa, hopefully that's a good broad overview around the importance of debt settlement. And by the way, the last thing that I'll say, folks, is like I said, it's a white hot space right now. It's growing like a weed. We're going to show you some macro indicators of how big the marketplace is. And you just talk to anybody that's here right now, and it's on fire in ways that it's never been on before.
Perfect. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
Yeah, I think that last point was important. So with, I believe the number is almost 80% of Americans now carrying debt. I mean, the services and the help that companies like National Debt Relief provide are more and more demand than ever. And honestly, a lot of these customers that come to us are all out of options. And that's where we come in to just provide a light at the end of the tunnel and an avenue to becoming debt-free, stress-free. Because one thing that we've learned is that debt really can weigh on a consumer, not just financially, but emotionally, physically, mentally, and we're here to help.
Really good point.
Perfect. Well, let's jump into the next section that we have here. So compliance and debt related content. So compliance is the word that I think makes every marketer's heart skip a beat. It's something that can be scary if you don't understand it or don't know how to navigate around it. And as we know, social platforms can be quite the sticklers when it comes to running debt-related campaigns. So can you tell us how National Debt Relief manages to navigate through the labyrinth of policies and guidelines to keep their campaigns in check and compliant?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Jeff and Drisk will chime in. But can we go, before we actually talk about that, can we go back to that previous slide? Because I think it puts a cap on Jeff B's point earlier. $1 trillion in total US credit card debt right now. That number is as big as it's been in a long, long time. It may be a record right now. And Jeff made a point around like the number of consumers that are carrying credit card debt. 80% are living paycheck to paycheck. It's getting tougher and tougher and tougher for the American consumer to navigate debt, the debt service that they owe, core inflation being where it's at, lending rates being as high as they are, and quite frankly, what's going to happen more than likely at the end of August with the student loan forgiveness moratorium going away, right? So there's just a lot of tailwinds around how big this marketplace is to sort of like make it concrete for everyone. So with that said, Ninfa, we can go to the next slide real quick. So compliance and debt-related content. So we're in a space that there's been tremendous progress. So our governing body has done a fantastic job working with state and federal regulators to ensure that we operate with the right set of compliance standards. And I'm happy to report that it's pretty well defined at this point, and regulators have certain expectations from a marketing standards and practices perspective. However, they're looking at what everyone in this space does. And when I say everyone, they're looking not only at the brands in this space like National Debt Relief, they're looking at our partners. So there is scrutiny here, and there is a high bar to operate with compliance. And it's not just the typical stuff around UDAP or even TILA, because we're not even making a loan. It's a little bit of a higher bar. And so there's a need to really be clear and transparent in how you promote debt relief or debt settlement. It is not, like I said, a silver bullet, get rich quick scheme, anything like that. There are rules of the road, and I see advertising sometimes that is absolutely not right. It's definitely falls into the category of too good to be true. They're looking at that stuff too. So we know exactly how to operate and sort of what's off limits or what you have to approach very carefully. And we're going to give you some of that guidance, but it is not a open field kind of do whatever you want to do here. it will definitely draw the ire of regulators, and that can significantly impact everyone's results in the long run. So what we're here to do is to encourage you to do it the right way. And what I'm going to tell you, and Jeff and Driss will jump in, is you can succeed, and you will succeed by doing it the right way. You don't have to cut corners to get results here. In fact, if you don't, and you really play the long game and you do it the right way, you'll end up prospering more in the long run. So Jeff B and Driss, do you want to cover the problem solution and kind of the client NDR client profile and all that stuff?
Yeah, so this slide paints a good picture of what Jeff just kind of outlined. So obviously this industry has a hurdle that we've been, trying to get beyond for many years now and feel like we have. There's obviously scrutiny in the space, and a way that others in financial services and fintech, have looked at debt settlement. And so our goal is to create this level of transparency directly through our own channels, but also through these partnership channels, and create this, like we say here, this people first mindset, so that we are providing a true and tried, solution to these customers that we can feel good about.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to change the narrative around debt settlement and move from the strictly transactional aspect of it to a human side of debt settlement. And so, we want to provide people with human-centered debt relief, and that's what we want to show in our marketing assets as well.
Do you have any best practices for the marketing assets besides being transparent to make sure that the ad is, it's not too good to be true? Is there something that you can think of that is like, hey, this angle works, or don't go down this rabbit hole, this is just not going to work for you?
Yeah, Ninfa, so it's interesting because I got a chance to preview some of the Q&A. And so we can talk a little bit about that. But for the most part, again, the transparency is key. Things like 95% of my debt getting knocked off immediately, forgiven, legally wiped away, and I'm scot-free in 2 weeks is never going to happen. It's just not how the program works. Aligning your advertising with some sort of government program or an act like the 2023 Debt Relief Act doesn't exist. So what you want to do is you want to clearly and transparently articulate the benefit or the value to the consumer. You want to stay away from things that are factually inaccurate, right? Like that you're sponsored by a bank or a creditor, or that you're in collections, or that you're part of the IRS, or this is backed by the Treasury or something like that. None of those things are reality. And realistically, the way the program works is you're not going to get out of debt in a month. There is a system and a program that companies in this space operate with. There are very consistent results that the consumer is going to get. And so being very, very clear upfront around that is important. And I'll tell you why. You could cut corners and you could say things that aren't true, but then you put a target on your back, and you don't want that. Also, in the long run, companies in this space, like others, will see that those clients that are enrolled in the program aren't performing. Because when you enroll somebody in something that, let's face it again, the levels of awareness need to come up. The more that we're able to educate the market on how this works and how it's not a loan and it's not a bankruptcy and things like that, the better. Because when they get in, eyes wide open, they know, okay, I have to do this and NDR is going to do that. And at the end, here's the outcome. Great. They're going to stick with the program. They're going to understand what's in it for them. But if you sell them on something that doesn't exist, they're going to leave because they feel like they've had the wool pulled over their eyes. The campaign's not going to perform. And at some point, you won't be able to participate in the program because everybody will say it's just not paying out. So that is the best reason to do it, guys, is it's great. It's an amazing solution. If it's painted properly, everybody wins.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the beginning where I was just like, I think the marketer, the affiliate, the publisher, your partner really just needs to understand the product. And by understanding the product that they're advertising is just going to make the biggest difference as well. If you don't understand it, it's going to be hard for you to, get the right angle for it. You're going to promote what others are promoting, and it's probably not going to be the one that's working out. So perfect. Well, let's move on to our next section that we have, which is maintaining ad approval and account health. We all know that getting an ad approval for debt-related campaigns on any of the social platforms can feel like you're navigating a challenging maze. So how does National Debt Relief tackle this obstacle and secure those precious approvals?
Jeff, do you want to start, and I'll jump in on top of that. You can kind of talk through maybe how we work with partners like Madrivo and their affiliates.
Yep. And so Driss and I can tackle this together. And so we've tried to put in place a very efficient and healthy approval process, obviously using the information, the data, the compliance, obviously information that we've reviewed and gotten from our teams internally. And we've tried to put in place a process that is extremely streamlined for our partners and for obviously their partners to obtain approval in a fast, efficient way for needed compliance, right, Driss?
Yeah, absolutely. So we use Asana. So the good thing about this platform is that our partners, once they submit their ads for review, they can directly communicate with our design team and our legal team. So when they have comments or edits, they have their comments and edits in real time. And they can provide, updated creatives instead of, having to be in between our internal team and the partner. So that's a good thing. We put together this new process.
Yeah, and we've really tried to provide a playbook, for our partners and again, their clients and partners to follow in order for, to achieve success. Taking what we know works and providing those same tools, solutions, to our partners. Jeff?
Yeah. We try to make the process painless, fast, easy, and above all else, compliant, so that when you run advertising, you have confidence that you're not going to hit a tripwire around either a platform saying this ad can't run because it violates our terms of service, or a regulator saying this isn't cutting it. And a little bit of tips around how to articulate the benefits of like I said, a solution that really works for a lot of consumers.
Perfect. I know that Asia, when she gets the creatives, and the system is just so quick and easy to get through you guys. So it doesn't take very long to get the approvals in either. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, there is something too that I want to add there, Ninfa. So Jeff V, you just mentioned it. We've got our playbook, we've got general guidelines, and our Madrivo team is really great about communicating those to our publishers in real time. We know this is an ever evolving industry. Things are changing. So there's not one playbook or one set of general guidelines that's a set it and forget it. But one thing I do want to mention now, as we go through our Asana approvals and as we leverage what we know to be true and factual about how to run debt advertisements, what happens, and I know this is a question that I just saw come in from one of our publishers, when you're looking to stand out in an industry that's become so competitive. And Jeff B, you mentioned it when we hopped on the webinar, it's white hot right now. So what happens when you are working to maintain relevancy and keep your ad material fresh while balancing compliance at the same time? Are you guys able to touch on that?
Yeah, I can take that one, and again, I'll ask the team to kind of chime in. So maybe I'll answer it like this. Here's what not to do. What not to do is to copy everybody else in the space and how they run their ads, because I saw the stats. 82% of you are advertising on social platforms. The barrier to entry on social is pretty low relative to other media, right? You can set an account up pretty quickly, create your budgets and your campaigns, get a designer to create some ads, and you're off and running, just like everybody else. And everybody else can, let's just call it like it is, go to the Facebook ads library and look at every other brand and see what they're running. And great, that might work for a second. But what happens is there's a limited number of impressions amongst that pool of consumers that are scrolling their feed on Instagram every day, and everything looks the same. So what happens? Everybody's results get diluted because, and I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just saying when you aren't thinking creatively or with original ideas, you're contributing to a lack of originality, and in the consumer's mind, they just see a wall of the same things. So I can't tell you, and this is part of creative exploration and development, I can't tell you exactly what's going to stand out, right? Let's, like, if I had a crystal ball and I could read consumers' minds and know to go left today and right tomorrow, I, like everybody else, would be retired. But I encourage everyone to take a little bit of time and think through their comm strategy relative to everything else that's out there while being compliant and truthful. Again, what you see sometimes is people that say, well, here's a bunch of transparent advertising, and for me to stand out, I'm going to say something that looks completely different, and that completely different might be, I'll get you out of debt in 2 weeks, it'll be legally erased, and you're not going to have to pay a dime. That sounds great. Guess what? That's not the way it works, and that is going to backfire on you. So what I'm encouraging is study the market, understand the product, know your own value proposition, and come up with something that you think is going to stand out. That is my best advice on how to navigate, especially the social channels where, like I said earlier, incredibly crowded right now.
It is, it really is.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, before we proceed to our next session, which is staying up to date with platform policies, I'd like to remind our audience to continue posting their questions in the chat section. We'll address them at the end, unless it's something that's already coming up with one of the panelists that they can incorporate it in there. But we'll have those at the end. We did get some even before the webinar started, that some publishers, you guys were really excited about asking certain questions. So we had quite a few before it even started, but keep adding them on. We'll get to them at the end. All right, so staying up to date with platform policies. Keeping up with the ever-changing policies and guidelines on social platforms, we see it that it changes, sometimes daily, on a monthly basis, quarterly, that everything's just changing around. How does National Debt Relief stay on top of these updates to ensure that they're always in the know? Is there something that you guys are doing for that?
Yeah, so we have strong relationships with each of the platforms, and by platforms, media companies, the Metas, the Googles, you name it, and you really have to, right? They look at debt as a space that's obviously hot, but one that there's concern with, and quite frankly, last year the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau sent an interesting notice that said that the media platforms will be held accountable for the behavior of their advertisers. And so that puts a lot of onus on them to watch certain categories. And historically, like we mentioned, 10 or more years ago, there were some bad actors in this space that put it on the radar. And so they're watching closely, and they're watching more closely now. So how do we mitigate that? We have a very strong relationship with folks that work in these platforms. We then pass that on to you. If we learn something that they're concerned about, that is coming to our partners like Madrivo, and they will in turn share that with you. They all see it a little bit differently. So it's not a one size fits all. It just requires us to keep ourselves pulsed with what they think is right for the consumer, right to sort of protect them, and obviously right in a way that allows them to maximize the revenue potential that's in this space. So work with us, work with Ninfa and Asia, and you will more than likely be in a really good position, because we're spending a lot of time staying close to them. Jeff, you want to add anything there? Is that?
Yeah, I think you made a really good point. Obviously, we want to use our position, our status in the space to have that dialogue with these platforms and be able to communicate, pass that along to our partners. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to that transparency that we're all talking about, and just saying the right things. The more you know about what this ad should be, and not going against the grain that you're going to have everything taken off in 2 weeks. We know that that's not realistic. We know that it's not going to happen. The less likely you are going to have any problems with any of the social media platforms out there. You're not going to be on their radar. They're going to see that you have a clean ad, which Intel helps you along with everything else that you're media buying for as well. Once you're on their radar, they'll be picking your ads apart across all different verticals, I feel like.
It's a good point.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, let's keep moving. Let's go to balancing advertising and our favorite word, compliance. So there is that delicate dance between effective advertising and social platform policies. Can you tell us how National Debt Relief manages to keep the spotlight on the campaigns while also abiding by the rules and regulations set by these platforms? You touched on it a little bit already, but anything else that you could add, that would be fantastic.
We've got a lot of performance marketers in the audience. So this is probably like saying water is wet. In other words, test, right? We don't know if we all knew what was going to work before we put it into market, then we wouldn't be here today. But we don't, and sometimes things that you don't think are going to see the light of day will. And so again, strive for being compliant, adhering with the policies of the platforms, the policies in this space, et cetera, and have your ideas, have your imitative ideas, have your radical ideas, and just make sure you've got a roadmap of things that you think are important to kind of learn here. And keep in mind, we've already kind of covered this. A lot of people are joining the party. And so what is working today might not be working tomorrow, like fast. We've all got to keep our eye on how stuff is performing, because it can happen pretty rapidly where you have massive ascent or major deterioration on the other side. That's largely the highest level lesson that I can give folks. And then again, if you're in the value add business, right, on top of like promoting NDR in this space, lean into something that's special about you. I don't know if anybody has a call center and they'll like talk to the consumer and add value in that way. But if you've got something that stands out from others in this space that is above and beyond how the actual service works, I'd encourage you to test it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. I come from the affiliate space. I worked for 2 affiliate networks prior to joining NDR, so I'm very familiar with these topics. Publishers, when they're on a performance model, they want to maximize EPCs, which is totally understandable. And I think it's about finding the right balance between staying compliant, be respectful of our brand positioning, but also be performance oriented to resonate with prospective clients. And that's the message we're trying to relay to our design team when it comes to creating marketing assets for our partners.
Dris, can you talk a little bit about who the publisher should be targeting for national debt relief? Like, who's your ideal client?
So our target is pretty spread out. It's pretty broad. So I think there are a few like demographics that are really important. So one is the credit score. The majority of our clients have a credit score under 700, and so yeah, that's the major criteria. And also I would say the income. We want clients who have a monthly income to be able to afford the monthly payments that they will make to achieve their the program.
Yeah, let me jump in a little bit too to Dris's point. So this is a broad and deep market. Debt right now is affected. You'd be surprised at the different archetypes or personas of folks that are in debt today. It's not always your typical subprime clientele. You could have doctors and lawyers and other professionals. It affects all walks of life right now. And we see those stories every single day. However, mechanically speaking, there are a few things that you have to qualify for the program. You have to have a certain amount of unsecured debt. And we encourage you targeting 10K or above in unsecured debt, largely credit card debt, could be medical, could be some student debt, could be a few other things. Companies in this space don't negotiate with the government. So, basically creditors of all kinds except for the old US of A. To Dris's point, and a job may not be necessary, but an income of some kind is. And the reason why is you're no longer paying your creditors that debt service. You're paying into an escrow account that you own, but it's facilitated by a company like NDR. And we set you up on a structured monthly payment. The money has to come from somewhere. If you don't have a source or a means to contribute to that account, you're probably not going to qualify. So there's a couple of things. Your credit score is really irrelevant, right? You could be current, you could be behind, you could have a high score, but Dris is right. Typically, you're dealing with somebody that has fair to poor credit and not really great credit because they're indebted, right? They're heavily utilized or heavily over leveraged on their debt. And as you guys all are aware, one of the top 2 things that impacts your credit score is how utilized you are. If you're utilized at 30% or more, that's going to hit your credit score. Most folks in programs like this are far more leveraged. Can you target for that? Not exactly, especially not on the social platforms, right? They're not going to let you do that. So I would say focus on other things and use your advertising to advertise to people that aren't right for the program. That's why you'll see stuff like if you have over X number of dollars in credit card debt, that's very deliberate. What you don't want is somebody filling out a lead form that's not qualified because it's going to waste everybody's time. So I hope that helps to kind of elaborate on something that Dris said.
Jeff B, I'm really glad you brought up that point about the minimum of 10K in unsecured debt. in that playbook, that set of guidelines that we operate under, I will say that is at the top, bolded, underlined, highlighted, one of the most important things that we need to engage the right types of people and send the right types of people to the National Debt Relief page. But one thing I'm constantly being probed about, I would say, from the publisher side is if there is anything beyond that we could also layer in to help improve that type of consumer that we're sending. Guys, I get questions all the time about specific age ranges or geos or even times of day that our publishers can start sending traffic to help maximize returns. Again, attract consumers with the highest amounts of debt that are going to be engaged in the program. So are you able to shed more light on going a step beyond the total amount of unsecured debt?
You mentioned geographically, Asia. That's a good point. And I will point out that National Debt Relief has the largest geographic footprint in the space. So we currently operate in 47 states. So that's important. Obviously, we see increased volumes in larger, geo areas. So California, Florida, Texas, New York, et cetera, in which we operate in all. So that's one important thing to keep in mind. And then, but going back to the earlier points about who these customers are, it is a broad range because obviously it is a broad range of customer who is accessing credit, right? These can be good credit scores, they can be low credit scores, they can be people that have been pulling out loan after loan to consolidate or transfer balances because different people manage debt in different ways. So we see kind of all walks of life. But again, to one of my earlier points in the webinar, these are now people that are probably out of options. They've exhausted all their options. They've applied for another loan. They've tried to access, funds through, retirement accounts and whatnot, and are now basically out of options, and that's where we come in. So those are really the types of journeys that we see. People coming through all different types of paths of different products, different services that they've tried to access, and that now come to National Debt Relief basically out of options.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing. Certainly, if you're able to target an immediate channel, you can experiment with that targeting. But let's take to get quite tactical, Meta. Meta has a category called HEC. I think it's housing, employment, and credit. And anybody that is marketing a product like debt relief or debt settlement on Meta is more than likely going to be an HEC. And if you're not, it's a matter of time before they put you there. Frankly, what they'll do is shut your ads down. If you're an HEC, it means that you actually can't target that way because they're worried about discrimination and predatory practices. So you lose a little bit of that discrete targeting because they're worried that that could come back and backfire for them. So I'm not saying it's not worth an investment. It's just going to be case by case where you have to look at whether or not you can do it and if there's benefit to doing it. Again, I'll say this. It's a very broad market right now. Debt doesn't discriminate. The only argument you might make is, and even TikTok has aged up dramatically if you've seen the stats. But you could say, oh, well, this is a media platform where it's largely 18 to 24, and it takes a little bit more time maybe than that to accumulate, let's say, $30,000 in unsecured credit card debt. Maybe, maybe not. It really depends on the consumer. And so just think it through in that way and keep in mind, like I said, very broad market. A lot of people are locked out of other solutions right now. And so focus, I think, on compliant advertising, really good creative. And then if it makes sense to do micro-targeting or audience targeting on a platform, try it out.
Perfect. Thanks for all that. There's a lot of good little golden nuggets in there for, I think, our publishers to really work on. So moving on to our last topic, collaborating with social platform support. We've talked about this a little bit previously in some of the answers that we're giving, and I want to have enough time to go over our Q&A questions with Asia since we have quite a few in there already. I'm just going to ask a little question on this one. Do you have any tips that you can offer to help establish and maintain a good connection with the social platform support groups that they have to work with on a daily basis? Because we all know that, you know, relationship building is the best thing when you're working, when you have an account with Meta, with TikTok. What, like I said, you know, any tips that you can offer so they can maintain their account and have that open communication with the social platform?
Yeah, I'll kind of summarize it like this. Be intentional, be very clear and transparent and proactive with your partners. They want you to succeed, right? They also don't want to get in trouble with their bosses, right? So if stuff's out there that it doesn't make sense for them, their job is to navigate that. Their job is largely also to ensure your success. And so they have a vested interest in having you spend on their platforms. Leverage that, take advantage of that. And again, build a relationship. If your objective is to hide out and do stuff that you know is not in their best interest, they'll figure it out eventually. And that's probably a worse outcome than talking to them up front and understanding how to navigate, you know, the complexities of marketing debt settlement on their platform.
Perfect. All right, so let's move on to Q&A with Asia. But beforehand, I want to thank everybody for being at the webinar. We have a lot of Q&A that has come in, so I hope we can get through all of it. We have about 15 minutes left. But thank you, Driss, Jeff, and Asia for, you know, jumping in and answering these questions. Where I'm assuming Asia is also going to need you to answer the ones that have been requested right now. So Asia, I'll let you take it over from here.
Thanks, Ninfa. Yeah, I also just want to thank everybody because as I was monitoring the Q&A, I mean, it was really engaging. I got a lot of submissions and I am going to do my absolute best to filter through everything. But in case we can't get to every question, you guys are more than welcome to email me. My email is asia@madrivo.com. And if it's not answered in the remaining 12 minutes, then we'll make sure we get you guys an answer. But the first question is actually really relevant. And Jeff B, you said something quotable earlier. You said debt doesn't discriminate. I really like that. And this question directly correlates with that. So the question is, I'm currently seeing success with Spanish debt campaigns. Is National Debt Relief open to setting up a landing page for Madrivo publishers to test our Spanish lead gen traffic? Any of you guys want to take that one?
JB, you want to cover it? All right, Driss, go for it.
Good, Driss, go for it.
Yeah, so we actually have a page, a landing page that is live in Spanish. So yeah, we can definitely test, you know, Spanish traffic. So to be totally transparent, we've tested Spanish traffic. We've had mixed results, but we're still, you know, on the learning phase. So, you know, happy to set up some tests and yeah, see what channel brings the highest quality.
Yep, and Asian, obviously, you know, we have the teams to be able to support that channel as well. So, yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So confirming that interest is there on the National Debt Relief side, and obviously after this webinar, we can reconvene on timeline and specifics, but it seems like our publishers are just wanting to know if that's something you're open to, which it sounds like it is.
Yep.
We are, and we can enroll and service clients that prefer Spanish as a language. And so we actually have a specialty group that works with them, and our CSAT and our NPS is through the roof. So the client experience is absolutely terrific. And so to Driss's point, you know, if we can get it right, it's a wonderful incremental opportunity for you guys.
Perfect. I'm excited about that one. All right, next question. So I'll actually give a little bit of context before this one, because I know Driss, you and I are looking at reports on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times a day, really optimizing and trying to capitalize on our primary growth areas. So we're in a quantitative industry. Numbers matter a lot. Performance matters a lot. And this was a simple question we got from one of our publishers about CPA. What CPA do you target? So I know one of the key formulas, Dris, that we look at is the cost per enrollment, right? So we'll look at a specific publisher's spend on the month, how many enrollments they got, and what their average enrolled debt is. And that's the formula that we really use to make decisions off of. Is there anything, Dris, Jeff, that you would add that's really important when it comes to CPA, KPI, metrics, and what's most important to national debt relief?
Yeah, so yeah, like you mentioned, that's our main KPI. We also look at the conversion rates. It's also an important metric for us, and obviously the average enrolled debt. The highest the debt it is, the better it is for us. So it's a combination of those three KPIs. To answer the partner's question about the CPA, I would say our sweet spot is 3%. So, but it's not a hard KPI. We have a tolerance, but we want to be around that number.
Yeah, Asian. So, and to Dris's point, we look at that as a percentage of the enrolled debt, right? And that's really what we've determined is a key indicator of the overall health and success of a partnership and a campaign. So that's something that we're monitoring very closely. Yep.
Yeah, and I want to make one other point, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but it's a beautiful program, and that the consumer or the client is in control here. When someone gets enrolled into our program, we don't make a dime. That first dime comes many months down the line when we have received a settlement offer from one of our creditors that we're negotiating with on behalf of that client that's enrolled in the program. And that client has said, yes, I'll take it. Only then do we recognize revenue. So even the CPA on the amount of debt that's enrolled isn't an indicator. There's no revenue events. The revenue events have a very, very long tail over many months and years and things like that. So some of these metrics we believe, and we have enough data, will turn into revenue at some point, but there's no guarantee. So we do look a little deeper over time at other things that are going on. You could enroll somebody and have a very, very respectable CPA, but something happens, the clients aren't sticky, and the whole thing falls apart. So I just wanted to make that clear. I think from a marketing perspective, the beautiful thing is the consumer isn't forking over a dime out of their pocket. They're putting money into this escrow account that is then later used for leverage or negotiation with the creditor, but it's their money and they can get it back at any time. Only when there's a successful settlement does a company like NDR recognize any revenue. So really, it's a performance success model for the client where they're completely in control.
Thank you, Jeff. I think that's a really important point. It's not e-com where there's a transaction happening online, a consumer is entering a credit card and revenue is realized in real time. It doesn't quite operate like that, and I think that's really important to maintain that perspective as pubs are running ads. So thank you for that. I know we've got 6 minutes left. I am going to highlight 2 questions here, and then, like I said, what we don't get to, feel free to email me, pubs, and I'll make sure your questions are answered. But this one, this pub says that they are also actively running ads for other top debt relief companies. Are there specific aspects of National Debt Relief's program that differentiate you from your competitors? What makes National Debt Relief more appealing to consumers, and can we include this in ad creatives?
Sorry about
Jeff
that.
Eisman, yeah, I was going to say, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so some of our friends in the space may be on the call, so I've got to be careful around how much I put out there around what makes NDR unique and special. What I will say is this, is we believe we're the most brand-centric company in this space. And we spend a tremendous amount of resource on our own advertising, not just to generate leads, but to build awareness, not only for the space, but obviously our brand. And if you look at it, we have tremendous awareness, tremendous consideration. And so appropriately leaning into this partnership between NDR and Madrivo or your own business is going to do you well, right? You're drafting off of equity that we have created. And like I said, huge space, awareness is bigger than it's been before. Second is, if you look at our net promoter scores and our CSAT, go look at our reviews on Trustpilot, on Google, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, look at any client testimonials on our site, and you will see uniformly amazingly happy people that are so happy they went with NDR. And so you have, like, those things alone are a lot of ammunition. The last thing that I'll say is this may sound a little bit fluffy, but it's really not. The outcome of the client who graduates the program is amazing. They are way, way better off than they were when they enter the program, or in many cases, even before that, before they got themselves into debt. And so do we do things that are different and special? Yeah, we like to think so. We get a great outcome. There are things along the way that I can't exactly articulate on this call that we try to do that go above and beyond to put that client in a winning position, and make no bones about it, we don't want to ever see that person again. If we did, we have failed. And so that should give you tremendous confidence that when you're marketing in whatever space you're marketing in, and you are appropriately partnering with NDR and our brand assets, you're going to win.
Great points there. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Valentino, Driss, anything to add there?
Yeah, and I would just take it from the partnership perspective. I mean, we are a very partner-centric company. You know, we have a very collaborative approach to our relationships. Obviously, Asia, as you know, so we are very much in this, you know, for the success of all of us. And I think that's something that you'll see, that we look into each of you as the publishers, the successes, the way that we analyze, you know, Asia with you and the team. I think goes a long way to the longevity of the entire partnership as a whole.
Agreed, 100%. And I'll speak. Oh, go ahead, Driss. Sorry to cut you off.
Yes, so sorry. I just wanted to add something that, you know, the process that we're currently using for ad approval, it can also be used to request creatives from our design team. So, you know, we were happy to provide any creative that publishers may need for their campaigns.
Perfect. Yeah, we thank you guys for being collaborative in that way. And one thing that I wanted to touch on, Jeff B., when you mentioned brand awareness and integrity and brand affinity, those are all things from the Madrivo side that we respect tremendously. And I'll say it's helped us propel our campaign and our efforts in a very short amount of time. We were able to grow quite significantly because of that. And also, as marketers, I'll say we understand that it's not often that first touch where a consumer is ready to proceed with services through national debt relief and ready to commit. Sometimes it takes multiple touches, and I've seen articles that quote 8, I've seen articles that quote up to 12. So having a brand partner like you all with that affinity, that integrity, that recognition, it's helped tremendously. Okay, I know we're at time, but there is one more question after that. We will close. This question: do you foresee any new compliance updates or mandates specific to debt relief advertising on the horizon in the near future that may affect the way publishers run ads on social media?
We're not seeing anything right now, but we don't want to see it either. And I'll kind of boomerang it back to the best way to not see it is to act in the most compliant manner possible. We mentioned transparency and just being completely truthful in terms of how the program works. Because when that happens, a lot of stuff goes away in terms of the regulatory scrutiny. I can't promise anything. If there is anything that's coming, I think it would be much broader than debt relief. Like there's some stuff out there right now where the FTC, I believe, is looking at review sites. But that could cut across so many different verticals with an impact there. It's just hard to prognosticate exactly what's going to go down there. But as we see it today, if you do what we've asked you to do, and I know everybody here is going to do it, should be good to go.
Perfect. Well, thank you all. Thanks for submitting those questions. And like I said, if there were any that we didn't get to or that may come to mind after the webinar closes, feel free to email me. My personal email is asia@madrivo.com. And Ninfa, I'll hand it over to you for closing thoughts and remarks.
Yeah, so we learned a lot from this one. I appreciate all you taking the time to joining us. I appreciate Jeff, Driss, and Asia answering all the questions that we had, plus the Q&A questions that came on. So looks like we learned a lot. Looks like we got some golden nuggets in there of what we need to do. We have to learn about what this entails. You have to know about what you're promoting. We have to make sure that we're staying compliant, building that relationship with people to make sure that we're able to keep our accounts in, all that kind of fun stuff. As Asia mentioned, feel free to reach out to her directly, to your publisher manager at the Madrivo side, ask questions. We're here to help. As both Jeffs have said, we're here to make sure that everybody is being compliant in this space, because it's going to help everybody make more money in the long term. We're not just about the quick buck now, it's about the long-term effect for everybody. So talk to us, let us help you get there. Discuss different angles with us. We can jump on the call with the people with National Debt Relief and talk about it together to see what everybody thinks is the best angle. But as we mentioned before, it's about testing too. So it's not just cut, white and black. It's just, we have to test things out to see what angle is going to work. So appreciate everybody's time. Again, reach out with any questions. We're here for you guys, and appreciate everybody's time. Have a great one. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ninfa.